This whole situation started as a normal Hollywood disagreement and turned into one of the most unusual standoffs anyone has seen between actors, studios, and creators. Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, Wayfarer Studios, Jed Wallace, and even author Colleen Hoover all got pulled into it. But before the drama exploded online, everything first fell apart in the court system. Blake tried to take Justin, Wayfarer, and Jed Wallace to court in New York. But the judge threw out the part involving Wallace. The reason was simple. Wallace didn't live in New York, and Blake couldn't prove the case belonged there. That shut down her first big move. But the moment Wallace got dismissed, a strange problem appeared. If Blake tried to take him to court in Texas, the place he actually lives, she would instantly clash with her own earlier claim that Texas had nothing to do with her situation. In other words, any new move she made would hurt her old argument. Unfortunately for Wallace, he ended up stuck too. He tried getting Blake pulled into a Texas case, but the judge there said no. The court couldn't force Blake into a fight in a place she had almost nothing to do with. And suddenly, both sides boxed themselves in. Blake couldn't go after Wallace in New York. Wallace couldn't go after Blake in Texas. And nobody wanted to try California because that would open the door for messy counterattacks and problems with evidence that could blow up on both sides. So instead of one side winning, everyone ended up with no safe place left to continue the fight. It was like two people slamming doors in each other's faces until every door in the hallway was locked. While all of this was happening, Blake began filing more complaints. She said the other side was hiding information and blocking the truth. But people started noticing that her own paperwork had missing pieces, important documents that weren't there, recreated files, and messages that didn't match her claims. As these problems grew, something even bigger happened. The next twist didn't come from Justin Baldoni. It didn't come from Wayfarer. It didn't come from Jed Wallace. It came from someone Blake depended on the most. Colleen Hoover, the author of the whole franchise. What Colleen revealed didn't just weaken Blake's case. It shattered the entire plan Blake had been building. What happened next caught almost everyone off guard. While people online were busy arguing about redactions, sealed files, and who was hiding what, a much bigger truth came out quietly from someone Blake thought was firmly on her side, Colleen Hoover. Blake had been treating Colleen like a teammate in this whole conflict. She suggested that they had a shared purpose, shared plans, even shared legal angles. Blake claimed they had common interests and that certain messages between them should be protected because they were both preparing for something together. But when the other side asked a basic question, was Colleen ever planning to take legal action? Everything fell apart. Colleen's answer was simple. No, she was never planning to sue anyone. Not Justin. Not Wayfarer. No one. This one detail blew a hole straight through Blake's entire setup. Because if Colleen wasn't preparing any kind of case, then all the messages Blake tried to keep private by saying they had a shared plan suddenly didn't qualify. The reasoning behind hiding those messages no longer made sense. And it didn't stop there. Blake had built her strategy around two major ideas. That multiple women were going to step forward with her. That Colleen Hoover was aligned with her and ready to help reclaim influence over the sequel, It Starts With Us. But neither of those turned out to be true. Colleen wasn't preparing anything. Colleen wasn't teaming up legally. Colleen wasn't fighting anyone. She was focused on her books, not lawsuits. This also revealed something Blake never expected. Her belief that she could somehow get control of the sequel was based on a misunderstanding. Wayfarer legally owned the rights. Completely. No traps, no loopholes, no secret clauses. Blake had no path to take back the sequel. But she may have thought she did if Colleen stood beside her. Instead, Colleen stepped back. And just as Blake's plans were slipping through her fingers, her own paperwork problems were getting louder. Missing agreements, recreated documents, conflicting statements about who said what, these issues made people question her entire approach. Suddenly, Blake wasn't just losing ground. She was losing the foundation of the story she thought she was standing on. And while this was unfolding, a different battle was brewing behind the scenes, one that involved the cast, the crew, and the studio. Because the next part of this saga wasn't about courtrooms at all. It was about reputation, misunderstandings, and a rumor everyone kept repeating. Was Justin Baldoni secretly running an online smear campaign against Blake? The truth, once revealed, turned the whole story on its head. As the drama spread across social media, one question kept dominating the conversation. Was Justin Baldoni secretly turning the internet against Blake Lively? On TikTok, Reddit, and Twitter, people repeated the same story over and over. Blake was being attacked by bots, organized trolls, and hidden accounts run by Justin's side. Some even claimed Justin was personally directing a shadowy online army to ruin Blake's reputation. It sounded dramatic. It sounded believable during the height of the tension. But when the behind-the-scenes details finally came out, the truth was the exact opposite. While Blake believed she was being targeted, the people working with Justin and Wayfarer were panicking for a completely different reason. They were terrified the online chaos would damage the movie and Justin's reputation. Instead of celebrating negative posts about Blake, they were trying desperately to calm things down. They didn't want drama, they didn't want fans attacking each other, and they definitely didn't want the film being overshadowed by internet rumors. Justin wasn't running anything. He wasn't directing trolls. He wasn't planting stories. His team wasn't trying to destroy Blake. They were trying to protect him from the storm they believed she had helped create. Internally, people at Wayfarer kept telling each other to stay quiet, avoid making things worse, and keep the focus on the movie. They weren't building a digital attack. They were trying to survive one. This completely clashed with the story Blake had been telling publicly, the story that Justin was masterminding a smear campaign. But when the actual tone behind the scenes came out, it didn't match her claims at all. If anything, it made her accusations look less reliable. And while the internet was arguing about what Justin may or may not have done, another rift was forming, one that Blake didn't expect, and one that had nothing to do with the courtroom. It came from someone she thought would always support her, Colleen Hoover. Because as more tension built between Blake and the production team, Colleen's own position began shifting in ways that revealed deeper cracks Blake couldn't patch up. And it was this shift that changed the entire power dynamic of the franchise. For a long time, Blake Lively seemed certain that Colleen Hoover would stand with her, creatively, publicly, and maybe even legally. During interviews, press events, and behind-the-scenes conversations, Blake treated their relationship like a united front. But the real story was far more complicated. Even before Blake filed anything, there were already cracks between Colleen and the production team. Creative disagreements, miscommunications, moments where Colleen felt unheard. It wasn't explosive, but it was tense. Then Blake entered the picture with her own frustrations. When she later launched her legal actions, Colleen suddenly stood in the middle of two conflicting worlds, Blake's accusations on one side and the film's production team on the other. The pressure was enormous. But here's the key. Colleen Hoover was never aligned with Blake's plan. She wasn't preparing a lawsuit. She wasn't fighting Wayfarer. She wasn't trying to regain control of It Starts With Us. She wasn't joining Blake at all. This wasn't just bad news for Blake, it unraveled the core of her strategy. Blake's hope of influencing or directing the sequel depended almost entirely on the idea that she and Colleen were on the same side. But Colleen's own words made it clear they weren't. And Colleen's distancing didn't come from hatred or anger. It came from exhaustion. She'd already dealt with months of misunderstandings, fan pressure, and online confusion. The lawsuit dragged her into a chaotic storm she never asked for, and she didn't want to be part of anyone's battle. Meanwhile, the production team, especially Justin, was scrambling to keep the movie from falling apart emotionally. Cast members felt awkward. PR teams were panicking. Even small decisions suddenly felt risky. Tensions kept rising, and every time Blake made a dramatic claim, the divide grew deeper. People who once wanted to support her started stepping back. People who believed her began questioning things. And someone she truly needed, Colleen, was no longer standing beside her. But there was another person whose involvement changed everything even more dramatically. Someone who wasn't famous, wasn't a creator, but had enormous influence on how this entire mess started. Stephanie Jones. Her decisions didn't just add fuel to the fire, they accidentally lit the match. And when the truth about her role surfaced, the entire timeline of the conflict suddenly made much more sense. If there's one person whose name kept reappearing in the background of this entire drama, it wasn't Justin Baldoni, or Jed Wallace, or even Colleen Hoover. It was Stephanie Jones. At first, Stephanie seemed like a minor figure, someone working behind the scenes, handling communications, managing contacts, helping coordinate things. But the deeper everything went, the clearer it became. Stephanie's choices unintentionally sparked one of the biggest explosions in the whole saga. And it all began with one object: Jennifer Ailes' phone. Blake's entire lawsuit, every claim, every accusation, every storyline hinged on the content from that phone. And that phone didn't land in Blake's hands randomly. It got there because Stephanie Jones gave it to her team. This one decision changed everything. Why this mattered so much. If Stephanie had stepped in to block the handover, if she had responded to the notice, if she had simply said, "No, we need to stop this," the entire series of events might have played out very differently. But she didn't. She didn't stop the transfer. She didn't move to challenge it. She didn't protect Jennifer Ailes, who worked for her. And without that protection, private messages and conversations poured into Blake's hands, messages that later became the backbone of her accusations against Justin and Wayfarer. The problem? Stephanie later claimed she had no idea any of this was happening. She said she was traveling. She said she was distracted. She said she didn't know her involvement was needed. But emails and message chains suggested otherwise. They showed she was connected, replying, involved, not detached the way she presented herself. So instead of being an innocent bystander, Stephanie suddenly looked like someone who didn't shield her employee, didn't follow up on crucial steps, didn't handle communication properly, and may have allowed a huge legal mess to spiral out of control. She didn't intend to cause damage, but her actions created a series of domino effects that no one could stop. This made her a liability to everyone. A liability to Blake, because Stephanie's mistakes weakened Blake's position. A liability to Jennifer Ailes, who suddenly faced legal heat she never asked for. A liability to Wayfarer, who believed Stephanie mishandled sensitive information. A liability to herself, as her role grew more visible and more questioned with every filing. Jennifer Ailes eventually pushed back and said, effectively, "This wasn't my fault. I was following Stephanie's instructions. Blake's team didn't expect that. The studio didn't expect that." And suddenly, Stephanie's involvement couldn't be ignored anymore. But her questionable decisions didn't stop at the phone. There were also concerns about her dealings with the press, particularly one explosive article that made headlines worldwide. And when people discovered what might have fueled that article, the entire narrative around the smear campaign changed again. Because the famous Daily Mail story, the one that painted Justin Baldoni as a villain, may not have come from the direction everyone assumed. If there was one moment when the public turned sharply against Justin Baldoni, it was after the Daily Mail hit piece, the article that painted him as controlling, disrespectful, and borderline abusive on set. For a while, this article shaped the entire online conversation. People repeated its claims as fact. Critics used it as proof that Justin was the villain. Fans believed it explained the tension between him and Blake. But when the truth behind the article came out, everything flipped. The reporter behind the article admitted something shocking. James Vituska, the journalist who wrote the story, was later fired after admitting he submitted a false statement connected to the case. His credibility collapsed almost overnight. And once he fell, the big question became, where did that story actually come from? Because it didn't look like a normal investigative piece. It looked like someone fed the reporter very specific, very pointed, very dramatic information. And when people started connecting the dots, the suspicion didn't point toward Justin. It pointed toward Stephanie Jones. Why Stephanie? Behind the scenes, Wayfarer had already grown uneasy about her. They believed she was talking to reporters behind their backs. She was pushing negative angles. She was stirring tension between PR teams. And she had personal motives that didn't align with the production's goals. Sony had even raised concerns about her media behavior. And the timing was unforgettable. Blake was filing accusations. Justin was being questioned by fans. Public attention was spiraling. And right in the middle of the storm, the Daily Mail dropped the most damaging article of the entire saga. Wayfarer and Sony didn't have proof she leaked it, but they clearly believed she was connected to the chaos. They told their teams to be cautious. They limited communication. They cut her out of meetings. Her reputation, quietly but quickly, collapsed across the industry. Meanwhile, Justin's team wasn't celebrating, they were panicking. They weren't using the article to fight Blake. They weren't pushing back online. They weren't trying to smear anyone. They were alarmed. Because to them, the article looked like misinformation, and they were terrified fans would think they planted it. They wanted the conflict to die down, not explode. This changed the smear campaign story completely. Blake had been saying Justin was behind a coordinated attack against her. But behind the curtain, there was no attack. There were no fake accounts. There was no digital army. There was no plan to ruin her. If anything, the only real campaign came from confusion, mismanagement, and media leaks not from Justin, but from someone connected to Blake's own side. Stephanie's mistakes, missteps, and mixed loyalties had unintentionally created the very chaos Blake believed she was a victim of. And the moment people realized this, the whole narrative around who hurt who shifted dramatically. But the fallout didn't stop with Stephanie. Because once her influence faded, one question returned to center stage. What was Blake actually fighting for this whole time? And when the answer finally became clear, it exposed the deepest motive in the entire conflict. Now that the dust was settling and more pieces of the puzzle had come to light, something finally became clear. Blake Lively's battle wasn't just about accusations, disagreements, or hurt feelings. At the center of everything was the sequel. It starts with us. From the moment her issues with the production began, Blake talked about the sequel constantly in interviews, press events, even small comments during promotional rounds. She hinted that she wanted to direct it. She suggested she and Colleen Hoover would follow each other anywhere. She created an image of a future where she would help shape the next chapter of the franchise. But there was one problem. She didn't own the sequel. She couldn't direct the sequel. And she had no legal way to get control of the sequel. Colleen Hoover had sold the rights outright. Wayfarer Studios owned them completely. There was no escape clause, no special deal, no backdoor strategy. Blake didn't have a path unless things around Wayfarer collapsed. Why the sequel mattered so much? If Blake could somehow regain influence, she could. Shape the story. Direct the film. Rebuild the franchise with herself at the center. Control creative decisions in a way she couldn't before. It was a major opportunity, creatively, financially, and professionally. But the rights weren't hers. So she built her plan on two beliefs. Colleen Hoover would join her in a united front. Multiple women were preparing to support her claims. But both assumptions turned out to be wrong. Colleen wasn't joining anything. No group of women was forming. And Wayfarer was not giving up the rights under any circumstances. There was even a moment where Ryan Reynolds reportedly tried offering millions to buy Justin Baldoni out of his position. It didn't work. Justin refused. Wayfarer stood its ground. The sequel wasn't moving no matter who asked. Then came the biggest plot twist. Blake's entire vision of directing It Starts With Us rested on one critical story element: Ryle. In Colleen Hoover's books, Ryle is essential to the sequel. He is the main source of tension. The entire story revolves around his relationship with Lily and Atlas. But in the movie adaptation of It Ends With Us, Blake's creative push drastically minimized Ryle in the ending. The film softened the conflict. It changed the final beat. It removed the hook the sequel needed to work. This meant, to make It Starts With Us, the movie would need to reverse Blake's changes. Changes she personally pushed for. In short, Blake couldn't direct the sequel, because the version she helped create already broke the sequel's storyline. Her goal was gone. Her strategy had collapsed. And there was suddenly nothing left to fight for. But even as Blake's path forward vanished, a new wave of consequences was forming, one that would stretch beyond her, beyond Justin, and beyond Colleen Hoover. Because this saga left cracks across the entire industry, and Hollywood was about to react. Once the chaos between Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, Wayfarer Studios, Colleen Hoover, and Stephanie Jones became public, Hollywood started paying close attention. Not because this was just celebrity drama, but because the entire situation exposed how fragile the entertainment system really is. Behind the scenes, producers, PR teams, executives, and lawyers were all asking the same thing. How did one conflict spiral this far out of control? And the more they studied what happened, the clearer the consequences became. The idea that private conversations, mild frustrations, or normal creative disagreements could later be dragged into a public fight scared people across the industry. Suddenly, writers were afraid to text each other. Producers became cautious about giving notes. Directors started documenting everything they said on set. Everyone wondered, could a normal argument be twisted later? Could someone collect messages and use them publicly? Could a behind-the-scenes disagreement be turned into a scandal? This fear didn't disappear, it spread. Blake's conflict made studios reconsider how much influence stars should have over scripts, directors, creative choices, PR strategies, production decisions. They began tightening boundaries, reminding actors that being the face of a project doesn't automatically make them its leader. Studios don't want emotional blow-ups. They don't want legal surprises. They don't want online wars. So they quietly started favoring actors who bring stability, not tension. Even though Colleen wasn't taking sides, she still became a part of the drama because the franchise was based on her work. Her publishers, agents, and studio partners had to limit her public statements, protect her brand, clarify what she was and wasn't involved in, distance her from legal fights she never chose. Colleen never wanted to be in the middle, but she ended up there anyway, and it affected how the industry handles authors in future adaptations. Justin didn't lead an online attack. He wasn't manipulating social media, but the hit piece and online rumors still hurt him. He dealt with hate comments, false assumptions, fans questioning his character, and the pressure of defending himself without feeding the fire. Wayfarer Studios had to calm investors, reassure partners, and restore confidence in the film, all while trying to stay silent to avoid making things worse. They weren't plotting against Blake. They were trying to protect themselves from misinformation. Because so many problems tied back to her decisions, the phone, the leaks, the mixed communication, PR teams all over Hollywood took notes. They started asking, how much access should publicists have? How closely should they be supervised? What happens when someone mishandles sensitive information? Stephanie didn't intend to cause chaos, but her mistakes left a mark so deep that Hollywood quietly changed how PR roles operate. This was the biggest lesson of all. Hollywood realized that rumors, viral videos, one-sided stories, emotional posts, leaked screenshots, and dramatic accusations can destroy a project faster than a bad script ever could. Executives now train teams on how to react to misinformation, how to avoid social media traps, how to control narratives or let them burn out, how to prevent private issues from becoming public battles. This saga was like a live warning. If a story takes on a life of its own, no one can control it. Not the studio, not the actor, not even the publicist. 7. And through it all, the biggest impact fell on Blake herself. Her reputation didn't vanish, but it changed. People saw a different side of her. More emotional, more reactive, more controlling, more unpredictable. And in Hollywood, unpredictable is the one thing studios fear most. The fallout wasn't just legal or public. It was personal, professional, and long-lasting. But the story wasn't over. Because even after the filing stopped and the headlines slowed down, one final question remained. What happens next for Blake Lively, and what will she face now that the chaos she started has settled? When the public conversation finally started to calm down, it looked like the drama was ending. But behind closed doors, the real fallout was only beginning. Because even though no new lawsuits were filed, Blake Lively was left facing a completely different battle, one that wasn't about courts or contracts. It was about her reputation, her future opportunities, and how the entire industry now viewed her. This next chapter wasn't loud. It wasn't viral. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, and that made it even more serious. People in Hollywood noticed the pattern. Missing documents, recreated files, claims that didn't match evidence, accusations that later fell apart, and a narrative that kept shifting. Even if you take the legal angle out of it, the overall impression stuck. Blake's story didn't stay consistent. And in a business where trust and stability matter just as much as talent, inconsistency becomes a huge problem. Executives started asking, will she change her story again? Will she take problems public? Will she pull us into drama if she gets upset? Those questions linger. Not hostile, not angry, Just cautious. They don't want to deal with unpredictable press, unexpected fights, dramatic public statements, or spiraling social media storms. They want quiet productions that stay on schedule and out of controversy. And Blake's recent choices made her look like someone who might shake up a project if she felt strongly enough. Studio leaders love her talent, but they don't love risk. This was one of the biggest consequences. Colleen Hoover stepped back. Justin Baldoni kept his distance. Wayfarer decided not to work under her direction again. PR teams grew more cautious around her. Some relationships may heal over time. Others probably won't. In an industry built on collaboration, losing key allies hurts more than losing a lawsuit. At first, many fans defended Blake wholeheartedly. But as more information came out, people grew confused. Some felt misled. Others noticed contradictions. And many started pulling away from her side of the story. She didn't lose everyone, not even close, but the enthusiasm that once surrounded her name now comes with hesitation. Rebuilding public trust won't be impossible, but it won't be automatic either. Blake may not be in a courtroom, but the decisions she made left her exposed to possible challenges about evidence, questions from production partners, mistrust from legal teams, and potential issues if she ever tries to make public claims again. Hollywood lawyers are now fully aware of how messy things got, and they're watching carefully. Even after everything, she's still a major actress with a strong fan base and decades of goodwill. Her career isn't over. Her influence isn't gone. But her approach has to change. She can A. Stay quiet and reset. Focus on small projects, avoid conflict, and let time soften memories. B. Slowly rebuild trust. Take roles that show professionalism, stay off social media drama, and prove she can collaborate peacefully. C. Avoid reviving the old story. This is the key. If she tries to bring back the accusations, the rumors, the claims of being targeted, everything could blow up again. And everyone watching knows that a second eruption would be far worse than the first. Industry insiders aren't waiting for Blake to fail. They're waiting to see which version of her returns. The calm, controlled Blake from the past? Or the emotional, unpredictable Blake from the saga? One brings opportunities. The other brings distance. Her next move will determine which one Hollywood believes in. The saga was supposed to end in court. Instead, it ended in a personal crossroads. But Blake wasn't the only one dealing with consequences. Because the ripple effects were about to hit her identity, the version of herself she spent years building. And that identity was about to go through the biggest test yet. After everything, the filings, the online storms, the shifting alliances, the accusations that kept unraveling, Blake Lively was left facing something much bigger than a legal setback. She was facing an identity crisis. Not the kind you talk about in interviews. Not the kind you post about on Instagram. The kind that forces a person to confront the gap between who they were, who they tried to be, and who the industry now sees them as. Because the version of Blake that Hollywood once embraced is not the version she showed during the saga. Blake built her brand on being effortless, funny, relatable, classy, reliable, drama-free. She never fought publicly. She never clashed loudly. She never seemed unpredictable. But during this saga, the public saw a different Blake. Defensive, controlling, emotional, intense, and determined to reshape the narrative at any cost. This didn't make her a villain, but it made her different, and that shift changed how Hollywood views her. Blake wanted to grow, to direct, to produce, to have more control over her projects. But instead of proving she could lead, she came across, to many studios, as someone who struggled with collaboration, clashed with directors, pushed too hard for control, and allowed personal frustration to spill into public conflict. Studios don't hate ambition, they love it. But they hate chaos. And Blake's attempt to take creative ownership backfired in ways she didn't expect. At first, many people believed Blake's story that she was being targeted, harassed, or sabotaged. But as more information came out, the holes in that story became harder and harder to ignore. No proof of an online attack. No evidence Justin orchestrated anything. No coordinated harassment from the studio. And major contradictions in her filings. Now, if she tries to revive that narrative, it could cause more damage than the original drama. Hollywood doesn't punish someone for being wrong. It punishes them for refusing to let things go. Behind closed doors, executives don't want anger, confusion, or unpredictability. They want the Blake Lively who showed up, charmed everyone, supported her co-stars, stayed above drama, and kept productions peaceful. That Blake still exists. She just needs to decide if she's willing to return to that version of herself. Not as an act, but as a genuine shift. Silence can calm things down. Time can heal. But rebuilding? That takes something else entirely. Accountability. Not public apologies. Not dramatic statements. Not interviews pretending nothing happened. Actual, private accountability. Mending relationships. Accepting the damage caused. Understanding what went wrong. Rebuilding trust one person at a time. Letting go of the need to control the narrative. That's how Hollywood decides who gets a second act. Plenty of actors have come back from worse. But the ones who succeed do so because they evolve. The next version of Blake, if she chooses it, could be wiser, calmer, collaborative, more grounded, more aware of her impact, and more focused on craft than control. If she becomes that version of herself, the industry will slowly open doors again. Not quickly, not in the same way as before, but steadily. What Blake does next will shape whether casting directors trust her, whether studios take risks on her, whether productions want her energy, and whether audiences feel confident supporting her again. Her career isn't gone, but it isn't automatic anymore. It depends entirely on who she chooses to become now. Because the Blake who started this saga isn't the Blake the industry needs. And the Blake who used to thrive in Hollywood isn't the Blake who caused the storm. The next chapter depends on whether she can move forward without bringing old battles with her. The story of this saga is no longer about the fights of the past. It's about the future Blake Lively still has, if she doesn't self-destruct it. But there's still one final layer to this tale, the ultimate chapter that decides whether Blake rebuilds her legacy or repeats the choices that nearly destroyed it. After months of tension, legal dead ends, media storms, and unraveling alliances, everything has led to one final point, the place where Blake Lively now stands. Not on a film set, not in a courtroom, but at a crossroads that will decide the entire future of her career. Because the biggest danger Blake faces now isn't Justin Baldoni, Wayfarer Studios, Colleen Hoover, or the media. The biggest danger is Blake herself. The industry has moved past the timeline of events. They're now asking, what will Blake do next? Will she stay calm? Will she let this die quietly? Or will she try to revive the narrative again? Because every producer, PR team, executive, director, and lawyer knows the truth. Round 1 happened because Blake went on the offensive. Round 2 would happen if she goes on the defensive. If she tries to explain her side again. If she tries to reopen the story. If she pushes the idea that she was targeted. The entire conflict could ignite all over again. And this time, the other side is prepared. If Blake does an interview. If she posts online. If she hints that she was wronged. If she blames the studio, Justin, or the industry. She risks several things. People coming forward with receipts. Studios pushing back. PR teams confronting her version of events. Fans questioning her story again. And the saga exploding a second time. Hollywood is quietly hoping she does not speak. Because silence protects everyone, including her. Studios aren't wondering if she's talented. They know she is. They aren't wondering if she can lead a film. She's proven she can. What they're wondering is, will she stay calm under pressure? Will she let creative disagreements remain private? Will she keep the peace on set? Will she avoid legal drama in the future? Her entire second act depends on the answers to these questions. The one thing Blake fought the hardest for influence over It Starts With Us is now the one thing she will never get. Wayfarer won't hand over control. Justin Baldoni won't step aside. Colleen Hoover won't shift loyalties. Sony won't renegotiate rights. That chapter is finished. And accepting that reality is the first step toward rebuilding anything. This is the most important part. People in Hollywood aren't watching Blake's court filings anymore. They're watching her silence. They're watching whether she jumps into new drama, makes pointed comments, tries to defend the past, or keeps things peaceful. If she handles this period with maturity, calmness, and steady professionalism, she can absolutely rebuild. The comeback is possible, but only if she avoids stirring the ashes. If Blake reignites the conflict, the other parties have receipts. PR teams have proof. Studios have kept notes. And people who stayed quiet the first time may not stay quiet again. Round 1 was chaotic. Round 2 would be controlled, deliberate, and aimed directly at the facts. It wouldn't be messy. It would be decisive. And Blake would come out of it worse than before. Everyone, both supporters and critics, hopes she avoids that. Blake Lively's career isn't destroyed. She isn't canceled. She isn't over. She is at the most important turning point of her professional life. If she stays quiet, rebuilds privately, avoids blaming others, shows emotional growth, and focuses on her work, the industry will slowly welcome her back. But if she reopens old wounds, insists on the original narrative, or tries to retell the story publicly,
the
consequences will return. And this time, there will be no soft landing.
Your Honor.
The final question. Hollywood isn't waiting for a court ruling. They're waiting for Blake's next move. Because her future doesn't depend on the past anymore. It depends on what she chooses now. Will Blake Lively rebuild her legacy? Or will she repeat the choices that nearly destroyed it?